Let's go.
Why is Dave on there? I think he's a baseball. Being well after 5:15, call this Economic Development Committee meeting to order. And it looks like we have a quorum. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Being seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Our agenda is adopted. And likewise, need a motion to approve the minutes of our January 25th meeting.
Approve. Let's see. Okay, John's on the committee. Yep.
Motion made by John,
Second.
seconded by April. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Discussion of the history of downtown Riverfront Alley. Chad.
All right, I will take that. At the January meeting, I think it was, we kind of briefly talked about the river alley and the river wall. And we briefly kind of just made the comment that, or had a brief discussion on that there's been quite a few studies and discussion and things with that. And I didn't have the personal history on all that. So I took the opportunity to kind of do some research and put things together. And as you guys can see in your packet, 200 pages later, I came back with a bunch of different information, whether it's, it goes way back into the, 1900s where they talked about the first, river wall sections that went along the river there. Conversations with, Army Corps of Engineering and, some design plans and, there's been different discussions and different plans put together. You can kind of see here, and I can't remember which one this was, but there was discussion about putting, trails around the river and how the city would, plan on those type of activities. There's been quite a bit of work done on the retaining wall itself, whether it's been the construction or over the years, maintenance and repairs to the river wall. Most recently, you can kind of see in the bottom part of your agenda packet, the most recent was in 2017, 2018, I think, or 2018, 2019, where we stuck quite a bit of money into rehabbing the river wall, replacing a section of river wall right by St. John's Park, and then adding the adjacent dock to that river wall in that section. But I really don't have a plan for discussion for this. I think this was more so just to kind of give you guys some background information and to give me some background information because I wasn't involved with the discussions before that. But just the point that there has been quite a bit of discussion, options, ideas, to the river wall and the alley itself. For example, here, I forget what year this is, but they kind of showed an option or an idea of putting a cantilever pedestrian trail along on top of the wall itself. I can't imagine what a cost for that would be today, but it was something that they talked about in thoughts and ideas and planning. So I don't know if everybody had an idea just to kind of peruse or have any time to go out and peruse some of the information, but yeah, there's been a lot of history to the river wall and the alley itself.
Chad, would it be possible to have that? It's never been a thoroughfare. Huh?
What's that?
It's never been a thoroughfare one way or the other way.
What do you mean a thoroughfare?
I mean, so like a typical alley, like by HUD on Beacon there, next to where you used to live. There's an alley, starts from Beacon, goes down to Spring Street.
So I don't think this is
wide enough so that you could have traffic go through it.
Oh, both ways?
One way.
Well, you do have traffic going one way in the alley right now. It goes from east to west in the back alley there. But, and I don't know if you caught in there, there's, most recently an easement, I think it was what? 2012? Yep, 2012.
Oh, okay.
Kent worked on an easement in the back alley that talked about, providing vehicular and pedestrian access
Okay.
in that alley, because I believe I remember him talking about at one point in time, the owners do own, the alley that's back behind their businesses.
Oh,
But the fear, I guess, was that, one of those property owners, since they own that alley, they could put barricades across that whole thing and disrupt anybody to have access back there. So I
Yes,
think this is one of the efforts that Kent was working on, just to kind of make sure that everybody's in the same page, that, there is an easement just to allow everybody, all the business owners and everybody who, uses those businesses have the option to use the alley for access. But it does say who owns what. It does say that the city is responsible for the maintenance of the alley. The city is responsible for the maintenance of the river wall. I read that's defined in here. But yeah, there is a easement in there. You can kind of see item number 3 here. Talks about vehicle and pedestrian easement back there.
Is that actually renewed every so many years, or is that just?
I think this was for a 60-year term. Yeah, right here. The easement shall be for a limited duration, the term being 60 years. So it's going to be in effect for my tenure here by far.
Chad and committee, it's Mayor Mark. What would stop the businesses that have that easement from doing outside dining and such stuff like that?
I know I read in here, item number 14 talks about limitations of the easement and rights of business owners. And if you kind of read through here, business owners in the city further agree that the use of the easement by the city in no way, shape, or form shall affect the business owner's rights to the following. And it talks about, parking in the alley, utilities, entrance, docks, except they have to get permission to, and engineering to attach to the wall, just because we don't want anybody just drilling into the wall and compromising the hundreds of thousands of dollars that the city put into repairs. Tables, outside cafes, deliveries, garbage pickup, and drainage. So those rights for the business owners still talked about in there. I guess I would have to talk to an attorney to kind of see how that, how those overlap, because I know it says in here, somewhere it says that the pedestrian and vehicle easement is like 12 feet wide. I remember seeing that in here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
It
that
shall
as
be
well.
12 feet. So I'm guessing that, and again, not pretending that I'm a legal expert in this, we'd have to have someone look into this, but I'm guessing that the easement is basically saying there's 12 feet that has to be set for availability for vehicles and pedestrians to go through. And other than that, the rights of the property owners are in effect for outside dining and such. But again, not pretending that I'm a legal expert in that.
Well, forward thinking about this and doing the downtown revitalization and stuff, that was a big concern about having outside dining, and that was topic of widening the sidewalks and such. And I was just thinking if maybe that's a topic that we could get all the business owners together on and see how they felt about maybe opening that back alley for outside dining venues, and just start that discussion of what everybody thought. I mean, because you'd have to bring everybody in and have everybody on board with whatever was decided. But I was just looking at a future thought process to that might be an option for the area businesses.
I believe El Tequila's is the only restaurant downtown that is set up they do have a small deck area with outdoor seating and.
We got a little deck there.
Yep. And I had talked to the owner at that time, and he said not many people take advantage of it. There's a lot of bees and stuff back there, so there'd have to be some, change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not feasible. So. Anything else, Chad?
Nope, I guess I just wanted to provide that information. There's a lot there, a lot of history.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Is the
with it.
back alley ever a discussion with the planning commission?
In what regards, I guess?
How to take advantage of the riverfront or,
Yeah, but you got all those rules there. Kind of limits what you can do.
Prior to my 10 years as city administrator, I don't know if they have. Just in the last year and a half, planning commissions have been focusing on other things. This might be probably more of an economic development focus if we want to kind of do some more in the alley. They would be more so probably in the discussions of zonings and things like that, more of the planning commission.
just curious.
I know one thing we did discuss, or the topic is, before the downtown project gets kicked open, maybe taking a look at that alley and see if we need some patching done or something, because I think that's gonna really increase the traffic back there for people getting in out, because they ain't gonna be able to get to the front.
Right.
It's something we maybe should look into.
So I know that, so that you're saying all the businesses own the property, but there's an easement to drive across it and access it. What is it for liabilities? If somebody falls over the wall into the river, is it on the property owners or is it on the city? Because it says that the easement, the city has to maintain the back alley.
There was
I know that we used to have a fence back there, which would prevent people falling in the river, and that got taken down. And I was just wondering if maybe you wanted to look into putting something back up.
Section 15 talks about hold harmless and identification. City and business owners agree to understand the city shall be solely responsible for the maintenance, repairs, and preservation of the alley and river wall, and the business owner shall have no duties with respect to the same. Therefore, the city agrees to hold harmless and identify the business owners along with their heirs, successors assigned from any and all liability arising out of the city's obligations created under the terms and conditions of this easement. So basically that's saying that the business owners do not have any liability for the city's obligations of the easement, the pedestrian and vehicle access with that. So now if we want to go a different, a step above that and start talking about what we can do to put up another fence, blah, 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 that's for future discussions,
Okay.
I guess the only thing I got to say is I'm really surprised, Chad, that you could still find a lot of stuff, and I'm glad for your time digging into everything, because I know that there's a really long and deep history with that back alley. I remember back in the early 2000s, Tom McConnell did extensive research at the county courthouse for digging up why that original alley easement was required because of the Great Fire in New London, and the information leads back to that, and I know that was like one of the pinnacle things of his career, Kent's career, in 2012 was to get that easement signed, so that we could move forward and actually do the $1 million plus or whatever it was improvements to that wall to prevent those businesses from being washed into the river. But and to April's question earlier, I know that the Can Do committee, there was several committees back in the 80s that looked at a lot of different options there, and so it's just cool that you could tap into that records for the packet and still have that stuff, because I was worried about some of the loss of information over the years of turnover and different things. So I know that you must have put a lot of time into that, but I agree with Mayor Mark that we have all of that information. We should look at it for the future as we look at our downtown redesign and everything. But know this, that there are limitations what can happen there because of the easements and everything, and what each, just so that each party knows what can happen, for example, tying up of docks and stuff like that. You just can't drive some anchor points into the $1 million wall. And, so thanks a lot, Chad, for all the work you put into that, for developing the background for the packet.
And I'm not going to try to pull one over on you because a lot of this stuff was in groups that was already kind of put together. So I'm not, don't think that I, spent, days and days and days putting all this stuff together. Kent had a bunch of stuff in the packet. Jeff Bodo had a bunch of stuff in another folder, and I found a couple other things. So it was a matter of putting it together. So,
Okay.
So with that said, go ahead.
Well, and if anybody wants to go on the Rescarta library site and look up, anything back to the 1860s, they can go on Rescarta info, through the New London Library site, and they can just type in back alley seawall or back alley, Wolf River alley, and any of those will bring up thousands of articles in the history of all papers in New London, and they can read news articles about how the firemen struggled to keep, everything from that to modern day times up to, 2012. And you can read articles on that through the library website, that Rescarta database that they have. So, you can get even deeper information than what's in your packet, but just by keywords in your search, you can read a lot of interesting stuff.
Okay. Update on Main Street bounce back grant.
So I guess thanks a lot.
No problem. So going to the bounce back grant, April and I have been talking a lot about different businesses that have taken advantage of the Main Street Bounce Back Grant. If you guys remember, the state put together a $10,000 Main Street Bounce Back Grant, which was eligible for any business going into a vacant property. We reached out to East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, who is managing the program in our region. And right now we have the following businesses. How many we got here? We got 10 businesses, right?
10 businesses.
10 businesses who have received it. And I know of at least 2 or 3 other ones that have applied for it. Maybe
I have
pending
5
yet.
in my records that are pending right now. And then in end of January, the county, for Wapaka County, there were 32 approved applications. So we potentially have 15 applications just coming out of New London. It's very strong.
I think April, I both believe that this was a little bit of a boost for our community by far, because you can kind of see all the downtown businesses, all the downtown buildings that were vacant, that you can kind of see here, the numbers here, they're taking advantage of that grant. And across the city in general. So we just wanted to kind of give you an update to show you, we had a number of businesses in the community taking advantage of that $10,000 grant, which is kind of cool.
Anything else?
People got anything?
Nope, just that grant goes until the end of June, and funds are starting to dwindle, so they put a guideline that anything under, I think it's 400 square feet is put on a wait list. So we're still encouraging places to apply if they want.
Good. In TID district.
So TID district thought it'd be a good opportunity to give some information on that, like I put in my memo. TID number 4, which is Celestial Hills, that's the restaurant development off of Beckett Road. If anybody's driven over there, you see that it broke ground last year. Focus right now has been installing utilities and try to get things ready for the multi-family development. I have not been given the timeline when he's actually start putting up his apartments or when they're going to be available for rents, but I know he's working on that. I believe Parker, Don Parker Construction doing that, and I think they'll get going again once the weather allows them to continue the utility process there. But they got a good jump last year. TID number 5, downtown Riverfront development, SC Swiderski. Continue to work with SC Swiderski and that. So last year, city engineer and their engineer and staff worked with SC to come up with a plan for the utility relocate based on their design for putting the buildings on that site. That plan is pretty much set and agreed upon. We also worked in collaboration on creating the CSM, the Certified Survey Map, that defines what the property is going to be that they're going to acquire from the city. It's not going to be the property. We separated the property behind John's Bar and behind Longevity. That's still going to be retained by the city. They're only going to get the property in between Smith Street and Wyman there. So we came up and agreed upon that CSM. That CSM is sitting on my desk. We can be recorded as we go through these things. Their engineers did determine that they do need a large amount of site fill for the development. So it's probably going to be $1 million for the site fill that they need to get it up to par for what their plans is for development. So we were originally looking at for the TID increment funding to pay for the utility relocate and part of the site fill. Last November, like I put in my memo here, we took advantage of a grant for the site fill and for the utility relocation. That was a neighborhood investment grant from the state. Originally, we were told that the grant was going to be released in December, so we kind of waited on it because this was November. I'm like, oh, a month turnaround on the grant, right? Write that grant, kind of see where we land on that. And that kind of, we put the developers agreement on hold at that point for a little bit just because that affected the numbers in the developers agreement. So we wanted to see if we got that grant. Unfortunately, the grant announcements didn't come out until March. So we had to wait until we found out that unfortunately we did not receive that grant. So immediately once we found out after the grant announcements that we didn't get it, I immediately talked to our attorney and said, yep, finish up that developers agreement based on the increment paid for the utility relocate and the part of the site fill. He's pretty much done with that. He's finishing up. Last week, Friday, I talked to him for a little bit. He's kind of finishing up some I's and T's with that, and we're going to get that over to SCS for a second review of that, and hopefully we can we'll agree to that developers agreement and bring that to council in the near future for agreements. So if all goes well, I anticipate that we should be doing the utility relocate in 2023. It'll be up to Swiderski if they want to work on, and I haven't talked to them about this yet, if they want to work on the site fill in 2023. But all those will hopefully to bring, 2022, the site fill, and hopefully things will be ready to go in spring 2023 for development there. Tip number 6, that's proposed. We are working towards that off of Industrial Road. That's the Lions Industrial Park over there. We've gone through a joint review board meeting. We've gone through the planning commission. The next step will be presenting that TID district to the council. The April 12th council meeting. Phil Cossin from Elders Associates will be here to help present that TID. But that TID is to help assist Titan with an expansion on their building and then help us with stormwater improvement projects over there. I didn't bring it up in the map, but over by Enterpike, there is a drainage ditch that the city has an easement for, that the city is responsible for maintaining. That ditch is deteriorating. We also got some goofy things going on with the culvert underneath that road that we need to repair as well. So this project, tip number 6, would help finance those stormwater improvements, because actually everything from the Titan property actually comes through that drainage ditch. So it helps us work on restoration of that drainage ditch, getting it up to prevention of the erosion there. And paid through by TIF dollars instead of paying through by tax dollars. So just a creative way to help Titan, a creative way to help the city finance those improvements over there. So that's in a nutshell with the 3 TIF districts we got in process or with proposals moving forward.
Just out of curiosity, as you go to Martinville, SCS is the way it's called. Is that Swiderski?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why they wanted to develop here, because they would have manageable sites.
Okay.
Like them on Facebook and you can follow along and watch the developments.
Okay, great. Okay, move on. Updates reports. You're up, April.
Business updates. Lots going on, like Chad had mentioned. So the first update I have is just a business name update. 218 West North Water Street, which is simply repurposed. As of March 1st, she has renamed her boutique Bluebird Boutique, and she's expanded into Winneconne and Menasha, so they're all Bluebird. The city that they're in. 106 West North Water Street, which is the building at the end of North Water Street by Anchor Park, where Valley Travel is, that used to have MG Treasures in there. MG Treasures has closed, and Tessie's Crafty Creations has taken over the lease as of March 1st. 1821 North Shawano Street, which is in the parking lot by the former Piggly Wiggly. There was a small boutique called Bon Bon there that has since closed, and a salon is open. I'm waiting to get a contact from Esther Jose. 200 West North Water Street, which is the former Quilting Connection, has been purchased, and investors are renovating the entire building. There's 2 unit apartments going upstairs, and I am yet to hear what is happening downstairs. Hope to hear soon. 815 North Shawano Street, Bert Esau has sold the building known as Bucky's. Joe and her crew were leasing, and they are moving on. No news on what's happening with the building. 320 South Pearl Street, which is currently the Holistic Health, has sold. That building's sold. I've been told a financial advisor is going in. A few of those girls from Holistic Health are going to be moving over to Gary Roan's building over on Burton Road. I talked with Gary Roan last week, and his entire building is completely full. There are 2 commercial listings in the city of London. We have 310 West North Water Street, which is MK Flooring. It's listed at $336,000 with Gray Wolf Partners. 1919 North Shawano Street, which is former Piggly Wiggly, is listed with Lee and Associates at $995,000. And then Chad is going to pull up a picture here. This is 416 West North Water Street, former Buyer's Guide building. I've asked the owner's permission. This building is now owned by Innovative Industrial Staffing, so they do all sorts of different things with business. It's mostly just office space inside. They have some really awesome plans. These aren't the exact plans, but this is their vision of what they want to develop in the exterior portion of the building. Thanks, update to downtown. That's what I was just, I heard a financial advisor was going there. He owns the building he's in, so it could be.
Oh, he married, as you married.
Yeah, he owns that building. So, but you heard he's buying Holistic Health?
Addiction.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
That would make sense. I heard it's a financial advisor.
Yeah.
I'll check with Mike.
That's right.
I talked to you a few weeks ago. Yeah, just once a week. Yes, so the Wolf River Art League, Wolf River National Group is in dire need of temperature controlled storage. They're currently the location that they're in right now. They have to be out of in June, so they store all of their stage equipment, costumes for their plays, and they're looking for 2,000 square feet storage. So we're trying to help them out. If anybody has any ideas, we've made many calls. That's right. They're looking for floor level storage. That's temperature controlled.
Sure.
Yep, city administrator's report, got the memo. Next week, Thursday and Friday, Dave Rose and I will be attending the DT Con Talent Development Council workshop down in Wisconsin Dells. So that's that event that John Fisher brought to our attention. So the title is Resetting the Future of Work, a couple of days to deal with worker shortages in Wisconsin. So we're interested to see if we can bring something back to that. February 16th, our city's chamber hosted a webinar in workers and post-COVID workforce. Again, workforce topics. The cool thing was this one, they recorded it on YouTube, and I gave you the link if you wanted to do that video. So that's really nice that they recorded it, and they're allowing everybody to look at that. And I don't recall what meeting it was, but we provided information. April, I sent this to you, about the mobile career lab, Wisconsin block. So we'll kind of promote this for local businesses, but they've got this basically mobile career situation where they've got computers in there that individuals who are looking at applying for jobs, go in there and, or someone could, like if Tyson would want to print this out, they've got a job fair going on, they can bring people in past production, got people registered for, people, their online application process, so something kind of neat to see put out. My understanding is free, you just gotta kind of contact the state and, get set up. There's some things for workforce development. Oh,
Okay. Upcoming, possible agenda items. Is anybody?
I sent you an email chat, a bunch of ideas and I already forgot to share.
Was there a focus that the economic development committee wants us to kind of to look at? I mean, I just brought up all this history of the downtown Riverfront alley. I mean, Tim mentioned about looking at something for a fence or something. Is that focus that the economic development committee wants to look at? And I would say if we're going to look at something like that, I would most certainly have you guys look at all that history information. Maybe the history's in there about how to do things. Sure. What we want to do. So whether you guys want to look at that as a focus, we've got a bunch of different things coming up. We're meeting and greeting some of the businesses. We've got Tyson.
Amcor, Tyson. I recommended maybe bringing in Jeff McCorsky because there are some major ARPA funds that the county is working on right now, upwards of $10 million. So there's numerous advisory committees that have been created to decide how to spend the money in the county. So maybe it'd be interesting to hear from him.
As soon as you get, whenever you hear about it, grab it because back is almost on top of that. It's right in the backyard. So I hear it, and you certainly will bring it up to you.
Jeff does a good job of emailing out all these opportunities. Yeah. We built on his email list. So.
I think great enough to, they've identified 4 barriers, transportation, broadband, childcare, I think workforce development, and they're going up for those barriers, not specific.
Maybe an update on the industrial park. You said no, last fall there were some businesses interested. I think we were running into weather and where those were sitting. I don't remember what they were, but there were a few businesses that were interested.
There's some things pending. I'm not going to reveal what they are just for confidentiality, but there's some things pending. Pending and construction are 2 different things.
Yeah. They're coming.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah, Dave.
Go ahead.
Hey, I just want to thank Fred for running the meeting for me today. I'm actually on my way to work right now. So thanks, Fred. I appreciate it.
That was Dave.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey.
So I've been paying a lot of attention to that alley and I've been harping on that probably since I started coming to these meetings, public comment. Chad, you and I exchanged emails back in February. I think you should get some drone footage from there. You and I talked about that so that when you come to a meeting that we can all see, or the committee can all see what's being talked about. Fred, you're from the city and you don't know that you can drive a car down that back alley yet?
Well, I knew you could drive a car, but I don't know one way, either way or what.
That's a little disappointing. I was down there when we were getting set up for the parade for first responders. I walked down there. Chad and I talked about this too, is the tangle of power lines that are back there. I don't know if there's a way to clean that up because that's really a scar on,
Yeah, that's the issue.
not only the backs of the buildings.
I've heard that mentioned multiple times.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way to clean that up. I threw an idea at Chad, but if you don't bring that one up, I'm fine with that because I doubt that would work. If you did have food in the back alley, can you have drinks back there then or no? Because there's a city ordinance about having alcoholic beverages outside.
It would still be their property though. if it's on a
Yeah,
deck.
I don't know how that works and I don't care. I just figured I'd bring that up, that
Mhm.
that might have to be
Have
addressed.
to look into that.
Yeah, and then my wife and I on Sunday went down to Fremont, to one of the restaurants down there, and we looked at what they have on the waterfront. They're set up different. You don't drive behind those buildings at all down there, but they do have those ratty piers in there. And I don't know, the barge was sitting down there that they put them up in with. I don't know. You know, obviously it's heavy and you need deep water to get it up, but it also has a tall cab on that. What they install it with, if they can get under some of the bridges, if we would ever have that opportunity to do that up here, to do something with that riverfront back there, maybe build a deck out in the water. I don't know if that's possible or not. Like, but then if you did that, then what if you ever had to do maintenance on that concrete wall back there? It's just all stuff that I thought about. So,
Nope. We actually had to re-engineer with this, and this is a good picture because it's showing that construction. To get this dock in there, they included that when they re-engineered and replaced that section of wall. So just because of the sheer force of that major structure with that river, I mean, we all know the amount of force that river has and on that wall. So it's got to be something engineered beefy to handle the force of the river. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, when you put those rat gate piers in, those are like 24-inch pilings that they pound into the river bottom.
yep. Are those ones move every year or are they permanent?
They're permanent.
Permanent. Hey, Chad, can I chime in on that? This is John. I can tell you this much, that there's a 14-foot elevation drop in the Wolf River from New London to Fremont. You know, as you know, that the water can disperse a lot of places between here and there. So what the problem with permanent docks in New London is, like they have in Fremont, is you can actually have such a great fluctuation. That's why New London's docks, like the one that was engineered, that beautiful dock that we have now on the seawall, is engineered as a float system. And those in Fremont are permanent docks. Now, in recent years, those have even been underwater, which kind of has blown the original engineering's, members' eyes. But it's not even feasible to consider what they have down there with those piers and pylons, like behind the bridge bar and the new convention center. That's not even feasible in New London, because you would have to have like a 14-foot ladder to get down during the low water times to the river's edge, so you have to have kind of a different system of engineering between New London and Fremont, and like you would like Shiocton, New London, but even more so from New London to Fremont. So it's like difficult to compare the two communities as far as what they have for riverfront docks and permanent pylons and stuff. And as you know, even those concrete filled pylons that are at our boat landing have been tipped over from ice shoves and stuff like that. And even this year, I watched small pieces of ice hit those pylons and literally shake them and vibrate them, which is going to create wear on them. So had they been cedar poles like the docks behind the bridge, they'd have been clipped off. This year we had really thicker ice than what we've seen in the last 8-10 years. And so it's just a difference of elevation. But I appreciate what Jeff said, but there's definitely night and day difference between comparing the two communities as far as what they can do back there as far as permanent dock structures.
I'm glad you chimed in, John. I figured you would know something about that. You are absolutely right about a floating dock is way better than having something permanent there. But if you don't think out loud, you don't know what you can and can't do. So just.
No, I've thought the same way you have many years until I sat in on some Corps of Engineers meetings and we realized the elevation difference, you know. If Fremont's flooded, New London keeps people in barely above water, you know. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there. There, because of the elevation of 14 feet between here and there, they've got a lot more flexibility and a lot more stability in their water level. And that's why, you know, we're kind of like, we're less of a victim, say, as Shiocton is to river level, but we're more of a victim than Fremont. So that was a good point though, Jeff.
I'll make a promise that if I start playing the lottery and ever win it, I'll just buy the downtown along the riverfront. We'll tear it down and start over.
Can we get that in writing?
Whoever's keeping this, make a note of that.
It's being recorded, so.
I'm in for it. You've got such a beautiful natural resource there. We
Yeah.
just can't come up with a way to.
Can't
I
capture
think
it.
the apartments across the street are an excellent idea. I love that idea. It's just that the usable space that we have, we just.
And on that note, my hat is really truly off to the city of New London for engineering that very expensive and acquiring. I think Chad was responsible for it. The docks that they do have because of such a water fluctuation. I mean, look at even just the average Joe that has a raft. You can't go 2 days and not check on it. And, you know, I mean, the fluctuation where we are right here in midstream of the heart blood of the Wolf River, you know, you have to really do some creative engineering where we are in this precious point to really have something that's viable year round. And so we're very lucky to have the systems we do have, but there's still a lot of challenges with that fluctuation of water. And of course, you know that Mother Nature's throwing us a lot of loops. I mean, Jeff, you grew up in a year of farming, life of farming. It is just tremendous right now how do you engineer stuff to really do what we really want? And what we really want is to put our focus back on the river, but it's really hard and expensive to engineer that kind of stuff. So just what you brought up really brings up good thoughts about that, you know? So thanks.
And I'll just point out, I mean, I think we should toot our horn a little bit, you know, as much as we can, because if you really look at this picture, look at what we've done with the dock, but look on this side. I mean, when I came to town, this was an old river wall and just all falling apart. Look at that now. I mean, that's
Nice.
definitely an improvement. So yeah, I mean, there's a ways we can go with things, but you know, we've done something.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. It's more expensive, but it's wonderful. And I can tell you as a business owner, that dock back there that is installed on the seawall, I call it Battlestar Galactica because it's like, remember that show when we were kids? It's all aluminum and it's so shiny and everything. It's just, and it's good fishing. And people, it's just great. And people don't realize the amount of engineering it took to get that the way it is for our water fluctuation levels that we experience as a city. And it's just fantastic. So yeah, I agree, Chad. We are very lucky to have what we do have for where we were born, for our position in the water level of this great big 146 mile system.
Mm-hmm.
I know John kind of talked about water fluctuation. On the other side of the river, the water's been so high, it's been kind of eroding above the rocks.
Up here? Yep.
Yeah, and you know, the last couple of years, it's been, those docks have been kind of underwater. And I just didn't know if there was any plan of putting more stone or something to fill that space that got eroded.
There's a story behind that too, because when this was permitted from the DNR, they only allowed us to go to the 100-foot mark. And that's why you can see this mark right here. And then if you're familiar with that, we planted all these native plantings and grasses in there. And the first year looked awesome. Well, then that fall, I came in really high, killed everything, and then it started eroding. Well, we went back to the DNR and said, hey, we need to do something else besides native plants, but they wouldn't let us do it. So we had to put native plants in again, thinking, okay, maybe it was just a 1-year fluke. Same thing.
DNR's gonna
Oh,
love
jeez. So
Tim, some are good.
I think they've loosened up on it a little bit. We got to look into that. But if we can put some more riprap higher, that'd be ideal. But I think we need to look into that because I brought Scott Kinky down here. We had numerous meetings. We had that Lisa Reese from that company, and we went round and round and round. What can we do? Because we've got, when that water comes up, it's high and it kills those native plants. But yeah, we need to refocus on that. And especially with the development going on here, we want to make sure that, we're saving that. And every once in a while we have to go in and pull that riprap back because it does, Mother Nature and the ice does pull it away. So we are permitted to go in there and just pull it up every once in a while. But again, it was to that 100-foot mark. We have to look at seeing if we can go higher right now. I think they've changed it since then. I think some things have changed, so we got to look into that.
Meeting of next month, Chad, date?
Yeah, so
Do you have anything to share?
let's see here.
Like the
April 26th would be the next regular date.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Make a motion to adjourn.